See what I'm working on? Sweet. Get you guys set up here. All right. See what I'm working with. Focus. All right. Let's see here. Need to put these guys. Closed. Now 15. In. 15 goes in. 13. 0.13. That's really easy. I'm gonna put that 15. 0.15. So much longer. Where are my goals? Just so we need five. All right, so it could be 23.25 or 0.28. Those guys. Let's try 0.28. See if we can get it in there. Use the Scotch-Brite pad to help pad me pushing down the closer. I'm not that good from this side. It's easier from this side. Middle of my left hand, put it down. Push it down. Alright, let's try 0.2. Goes in. It's definitely slow. Goes in. Let's try 0.28 millimeters. Goes in. It's definitely snug. Let's do should be 0.30 millimeters. That's a pretty big gap. .28 seems pretty good. What's under that? 0.1. 0.28. 0.25. Let's see if that feels good. Oh, these closers are so weird. Mine feels pretty easy. Let's try that 0.28 again. 0.28. I'm double checking the intake clearances. We'd actually kind of started this thing up, or the owner of this bike started this guy up, and he started to have some intake backfires. So before I started digging into everything, making sure everything's perfect, I just wanted to check this thing to make sure not only these valves were okay, I checked the valves out, they're fine, but I also want to make sure these clearances are okay. And if these clearances are okay, that means it has something to do with the throttle body and that TPS sensor, the throttle body position sensor. So I'm trying to see how bad these clearances are. And right now they're not looking too bad. They're not way out. Let's see here, 2.8. That's okay, but not great. Alright, 0.25. Let's try this between these two. Feels pretty easy. That's pretty damn sad. I'm gonna keep that up. That 0.28 goes in, but that 0.25 feels better. Not too easy, but it feels good. How does that put you at? That puts you at perfect. Yeah, because that's 0.25 for the loaded clearance. 0.25. Closer clearance, that puts that at 0.10. Perfect. So that one's good. Let's try that one. I think that one was pretty much exactly dead on. That is one thing I've definitely learned about these bikes. This shimming process is a little bit ridiculous. Well, that 0.8 definitely doesn't. 0.28 does not like it. 0.25. And my setup right now is just 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch extension with a 12mm short socket. I've tried other sockets. This one just fit perfectly on that edge, and it has not slipped off at all. And I was reading on the forums about people using like freaking flatheads and like, oh yeah, just put it on there, slipped off, and almost hit the valve guides. I was like, oh dude, that turns into a lot more headache. Just do something safer than a flathead. It was between those 25. Switch hands. Switch hands. There's really a finesse to pushing down the spring and getting the proper tension on it, so you get that clearance, that loaded clearance. Just awkward. 0.25. Come on. Yeah, that one feels good too. Let's try one more up. Or we just did that one more up. 0.25. 0, where's 0.8? 0.28. Let's give that one. Yeah, it does not like that. Now it's 0.25 too. And that puts you at perfect spec as well, so 0.25. That makes you closer clearance 0.10. Yep. Alright, so everything with that is in spec, so that's good. We don't have to do any clearances, which makes me feel better. So, I know that it has to be this TPS sensor and adjusting that, as well as possibly dirty fuel injectors, because these fuel injectors have never been cleaned, or maybe even the throttle bodies are out of balance, because the main throttle body is the horizontal one, and the secondary is the vertical, and the secondary one is the one that has to be balanced to the horizontal one. So I'm hoping that one TPS sensor just needs to be adjusted, two, the throttle bodies need to be balanced, and that will quit the intake backfire. And this is the first bike I've ever heard of or seen do an intake backfire. I've never even seen this before. It's always exhaust backfire, and it's like, oh, it's cool. I love the pops and bangs. But I don't know. Alright, I'm gonna put these guys up. I'll lose these. Alright, I'm gonna close this guy up just so nothing gets in there. Let's see. Oh man, anything Honda. I guess if you're doing sport bikes, if you're sticking with sport bikes, the CBR 600RR, that's a modern sport bike, and they haven't changed it in what, almost 20 years, because they came out with that model in 2007, and it's almost 2027 right now, so it's almost been 20 years. The only thing they've done is maybe upgraded the wheels and then changed the fairings, but you can easily put 2027 or 2025 fairings on old ones, and almost everything on the engine is the same. There's like a few nuts and bolts that are different, but that bike has everything the same. So one, parts are cheaper. It's not coming from BMW or Aprilia over in Italy or Germany. It's coming from Japan, but there's quite a stockpile here that's OEM. But also on top of that, there's just so many of those bikes here that if you need parts, you can easily find parts around. Someone's parting out those bikes. And to top it off, I rode that bike for a long time. I rode it as a daily rider, and then I turned it into a track bike. And in the 4 or 5 years that I rode track, I had friends blow up engines and spin bearings, all kinds of things, and I had no issues whatsoever. And I was ragging that thing out. I was probably even a little bit worse than I thought it was going to be, but yeah. I recommend sport bike wise, Honda CBR 600RR. That is just my go-to because it's just bulletproof and there's so many parts available. A lot of people will say, oh, go with the GSX-Rs because it's like the sport bike. Yes, but everyone thinks of it as the go-to sport bike, so parts are actually kind of running out. And I found that out when I was rebuilding a track bike into a street bike. I had trouble finding head units. I had trouble finding OEM bolts. I had so much trouble finding things. And I was like, what the hell, there's so many of these bikes, but that's the bike that everyone thinks about. And so when you go to get parts for it, it's actually kind of difficult. And a lot of the parts that are available are coming straight from China. Like most of the important plastic pieces where OEM is actually preferred, like, what is it, fairing stays and stuff. Man, those coming from China, they're so different. The quality is crap. When I was trying to install a headlight unit into it, 2 of the tabs broke with just, I was putting the screw in, I didn't even screw it in, it snapped off. I was like, oh my god. But, yeah, I do recommend Hondas for reliability, and it sounds cliche, but that's totally my experience. And have you seen on the channel I rebuilt that 2024 S1000? Oh my god. The horror stories that I heard from that bike, just like, oh yeah, I had it for just after break-in, and then I'm hearing a rattling in the engine, and they had already spun a bearing, but they hadn't even had the engine above whatever 1,000 miles. But yeah, it's wild, and that's one of the reasons I rode that bike once or twice, and then I put it up for sale because I did not want to be locked in with that bike with a blown motor, because those bikes are super expensive. I was super lucky to get that bike, but I was also super nervous to have it because one, those bikes brand new are like 33, 34 grand, and I had already had tapped out my finances just to try and rebuild that thing, and I was like, if the motor blows on this thing, this is a little too risky. But Hondas, Suzuki's, older ones, you can get through it with parts and stuff. You can find them cheap. Well, I thought this was going to be a lot longer process. That's why I did the whole live thing. Is I thought I was going to be taking off belts, taking off battery tray and everything. But everything in here looks good. That's good news. I think what I'm going to do now is just test the throttle position sensor and see what that reads. That's just pretty much the angle of the throttle body. What are they called? The butterflies. And it tells you what angle they're at. And there's a OEM stock setting of what voltage or angle they're supposed to be at. So I'm hoping those are at the correct angle, because then that just leads to one thing for me to fix. It's just they're out of balance. And then I have a cool new tool from DigiSync I'm going to use to balance this thing. I can't start this thing up tonight because it's already 10 o'clock and piss off my neighbors. But it just gives me one less thing to do. But yeah, beginner project bike, CBR 600RR for parts, and there's a lot of content out there. But also that GSXR 600, 750, there's a lot of content out there, but like I said, you'll run into parts issues. Like there's a bunch of Chinese stuff out there, but it just does not do well. Alright, this is all good. That's good. I know that's good. Let's go ahead and put car back on, or the throttle body back on. Actually, I need to replace it. One of these throttle bodies actually from the backfire actually popped a hole in it. So that's what made me check the valve clearances, because I don't know if you can see that, but there was enough of a backfire to create a hole in this. But I don't know if there was an impact that created this hole and it was tiny, and then the fueling was off, making it backfire more. But I had to order a new one of these where the boot didn't have a hole in it. So that was exciting. Let's see here. And I got a pair, so if for some reason it backfires and pops a hole in the next one, I have at least one more shot at it. These actually look pretty good. Let's, the screw is, screw is okay. I don't know if there's a big difference. I think they're exactly the same, I think. Don't quote me on that. And they are not the same, because the measurement is on the different side. The part that you attach the vacuum hose to. Let's see here. There we go. Those are on the same side. Yeah, this one good. No holes. Good. How's the clamp look? Is that OEM? OEM. Everything looks, that's chromed out. Ah, no, that's not OEM. That's a different type of clamp. I'll change out those clamps. But yeah. I'm looking for to make sure that they're the same as this hose right here is where you adjust or hook up the vacuum hose to balance it. And you see the other one had the vacuum port on the other side, so I was like, oh, they're not the same, but this is an aftermarket clamp. This one is a better clamp, I think. Is this a Denso or what is this? Genie. No, same brand. I'm gonna go put this one on there. Looks better. Yeah. Throttle port. Let's see here. What do we got? There we go. Alright. Just a quick job. I think this looks okay. Doesn't look like there's any major oil coming up or any particles or anything. And I already looked in the valves, make sure they were okay, and everything looks good. So I don't know, everything's pointing to throttle position sensor, which is good news. All right, this guy's gotta come apart. Of course, I don't have a flathead over here. We'll just do it old school. All right, this might take forever. What is it, 8? This is 7. 8. And somewhat. It's not really an 8, it's like a 7, but we're making it work. Bad clamp, but this one was definitely OEM. I know this is OEM. So this one goes like that. The clamp is going to go like that. The clamp goes on that side. Clamp's going to go like that. Alright. I need a Phillips. Thought I got all my tools over here, but I did. Yeah, and we just moved, so I still haven't fully unpacked all my tools. So I'm trying to do this and get it done while all my, I don't know if you can see in the background, there's just all the crap everywhere and I have my camera out, but normally it's all nice and neat. You've probably seen a few other videos that it's just always clean, but moving kind of sucks for keeping tools organized, especially if you empty everything. Let's see, just a little bit on there. That looks good. Yeah, this one looks in good condition. Don't see any too big of issues. Yeah, looks good. Alright, let's go get some, let's see. Razor. Yeah, I totally recommend. Let's see. Go away. This one looks a little bit resurfaced, actually. But yeah, if you haven't seen some of my other stuff, like I totally recommend for anyone getting any sort of bike, even if you've been riding for a long time and you want to get into sport bikes, just take it to the racetrack and go to a riding school, because that shit will save your life. Just learning how to move on a bike will, again, save your life. And then being comfortable or getting the opportunity to take corners at a much higher speed than you've ever done translates to whenever you go, into a corner and you're only doing 50, you know, I've done a corner like this at 100, so I know I can easily make this corner. So it's if you get into a project bike and it's a sport bike and you don't care about it and whatever, take it to the track. You might wreck, but if you take things slow, you'll be just fine. But find a track day organization near you, even if it's several hours away. It's worth your safety and it's an investment to keeping you alive. Alright, what are we doing here? We got bolts on bolts. Oh man. Alright. Let's see if this is going this way. Those tins. Let's get this out. Double check those. They look good. There's barely any carbon buildup or anything on them, so that is good news. Alright, keep those on. Excuse me. There we go. Oh, hello. Oh, that nut in my hand. Scary. Alright, so this is gonna go. Guess you can go this way because it'll be difficult to get you to the hose. Good. Things lined up. Good. I don't know, whenever you work on a bike, never always have the intakes covered with something. I had an old Ninja 250 that I was turning into a cafe racer, and I dropped a nut into one of the intakes. It's like, oh Jesus, because I was just a visual. It was just a superficial build. I was just all for looks. The engine ran fine, so I was like, that's fine. And the only reason why I had the intakes off is because I was changing the filters and just trying to clean some stuff up. But luckily that one bolt that I dropped was magnetic, so I was able to fish a really thin magnet down there and I got it. And I thought there was no way in hell that I was going to be able to get it, but I got it. So ever since then I'm super gun shy about openings into the engine if you're not planning on doing engine work. I did a rebuild on that speed triple where it was just a low side. It looked like an easy rebuild, but I had to take apart the whole thing, and I didn't show it on video, but I did end up dropping something in one intake, so I was like, it's all good, you're gonna have to take it all apart anyways. But yeah, I would normally have a bunch of shop towels or whatever. This isn't the best. You want something that you can kind of get down in there to not only block, but also like create a catch for it. So if you do drop something, it just kind of sticks in there instead of drop, then drop somewhere, and drop some more. It's like, where the fuck did it go? So, but this isn't the best setup, but it works for right now. What's that? How did I have that? Was that 10 or 12? No, that's 10. Let's see. I'll leave it up here. There we go. And then, do you have any bikes already? Or is it just you're looking for a project bike as your first bike? Because if you're just looking for a bike, I don't know if a project would be the first one to start out on. I would definitely get something that's running and ready to go, because I had a friend who bought an old, what was it? FC6,
FCR 600, like from the 90s. It was similar to one that I had rebuilt. But he was like, yeah, I'm gonna turn this thing into great, and classic, like, I get a project and then they didn't finish it because they just didn't take into account how much work it was gonna be. And, yeah, so, if you don't already have a bike, I recommend don't start with a project bike. It'll kick your ass and it'll just end up in the garage. And then, if you have a wife or whatever, that will be a constant talking subject. What did I do this time? God, man, this thing is such a pain in the ass. Oh man, I need some of those, what is it, not ratchets, what are these? Crescent wrenches that have the ratchet built in. But I so rarely use this type of tool. Like, this is the first bike I've worked on where I constantly have like nuts that I need to take off. Normally with all the sport bikes I've had, it's always recessed Allens. And so this building on this bike is making me realize, like, damn it, I gotta buy more tools. Even though it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just kind of one of those things where in the moment you're like, damn it, I don't have the right thing to do the job. And like right here, I only have like you can kind of see it, I only have maybe like a 2-inch movement pattern that I can tighten this bolt. So it takes forever. But it's a learning experience and it kind of helps me. That was the whole reason why I took on this. I have this Ducati, and you can see that one just kind of hiding over there. It's actually same year, but Ducati 748. So everything on this bike and that bike are exactly the same. The only thing that's different is the size of the bore and the placement of the ECU. And a few small things, but they're pretty much exactly the same. So I know when I have to work on that thing, it's going to be all the same, like headaches of access and trying to get to certain things and whatever. So this, even though this wasn't a true rebuild, it's kind of helped me iron out what I know I'm going to need to have in order to get it done. Same thing on this one, it's just, oh yeah, I'm going to flip it. Maybe keep it open on the side. Yeah, like one turn. That's annoying. But other than like awkward placement of nuts and stuff, and after working on that S1000 and all the wiring and all the things that I had to check, and this bike is so simple comparatively. Like, there's really no electronics. Like, I can see the wiring harness, and it's, my pinky is just as big as the wiring harness. It's tiny. The wiring harness on the S1000 was like this big. I was like, dear God, I really don't want to mess with electronics. And yeah, that thing was scary because I thought the front display was damaged, and that display alone of the tachometer was like used, was like $2,000, but brand new was like $4,000. It's like, oh my God, that's crazy amounts of money for motorcycles when I'm just trying to have fun rebuilding something. Snug. We'll get these all snug, and then I'll find the torque values on these. I don't remember what it is. It's pretty much just get it snug, and then a twist. Anything that's these small M6, M5, M3s, the torque values really, they don't mean shit. It's really just get them snug, and then give them maybe an eighth of a turn. At most, a quarter of a turn, but you can't be too reliant on torque values a lot, because a lot of times each one either maybe one bolt's dirty with a little grease and it moves a little bit further. Or maybe one bolt has a little bit of grit, or the zinc coating's coming off, so it almost acts as a thread locker where it's kind of harder to push. So it's really down to feel with these smaller bolts. I do a lot of torquing, torque values on everything, but a lot of them it's just by feel and adding some thread locker to them because they're so sensitive. So like that, that's good. That's good. And do the crisscross pattern. Try to get to it. That doesn't get to it. That doesn't get to it. Right here. There we go. Needed a little bit more snugging up. Okay. Now loose. There we go. And anything with a gasket, metal gaskets always kind of are tricky. Paper gaskets don't do it that much, but I've definitely noticed on metal gaskets that even if you do the torque value, so you'll snug them up and then you'll do the torque sequence of the torque value, but then if you go back to that starting bolt, you'll realize, oh, it's not even close now again. And it's not with that metal gaskets that when they compress, they give a little bit of a false reading. At least I've had that experience with a couple of times. I've never had that happen with paper gaskets, or obviously doing it with like RTV sealants, but yeah, this bike, all these gaskets are all metal gaskets, kind of like head gaskets. Normally on modern bikes, it's always kind of like a paper or some sort of silicone type. But yeah, this one has quite a bit of metal gaskets. And yeah. Alright, that's good. Give these one more once over. And just trying to double check and make sure these are all snug, because if this isn't snug and there is an air leak, it will cause backfires as well. So not only it kind of goes down the line of like, if these valve clearances are off, it can cause a backfire. If this intake boot isn't fully seated and air gets in, that can cause a backfire. If this worm clamp isn't fully secure and there's a leak into the intake valve, it will backfire. And then on top of that, if the valves are not the correct angle, they'll backfire. So there's so many different levels to try and search through what is actually causing it to backfire, which is kind of intense. But that's what rebuilding bikes is for, is just kind of working your way through it. But I'm excited that that checks out. Let's see. Let's do, I gotta hook up valves here. So I'm gonna move you guys around here in just a second. Yeah. Let me move you guys on the other side so I can do the TPS sensor adjust. Here's the, here it is. So I can get you to rotate without loosening. There we go. Let's see. Let me know what you think of this sweet pink chair. It's my daughter's chair that I've commandeered. Another thing that I do need to get eventually is a shop chair on wheels. Alright. Coming into frame is the throttle bodies. This is throttle bodies. And there's a few things that you have to look at. So let's see, let me get these in the right orientation. You are over here. I played with these the other day just to see how to measure it, how to measure the throttle bodies, and I adjusted the backfire screw, or the stop screw. But let me get these hooked up. How did I have these hooked up? I had them backwards, because you have to have it hooked up to the bike here, and there's this compression twist lock, which is interesting. I wasn't expecting to see these, but I have to do it backwards. But I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is called a TPS, or a throttle position sensor, and this sensor tells you what angle these butterflies are at. And if these butterflies are at the wrong angle, it can cause all kinds of problems, like running lean, running rich, backfiring, like we saw, or what I found out about in the vertical intake. So I messed with this the other day, but I had hoped nothing was wrong, because these are the factory marks, and this paint is almost like a gel that locks this stuff into place. It's actually quite thick. It's not just a paint. It's pretty thick, and it looked like nothing had moved. And then I look back here. Let me see here. Make sure I'm not dripping fuel everywhere. But I look back here at the adjustment screw back here, and I noticed the paint was a little bit off, and this had moved a little bit. So I was like, maybe the backfiring is just as simple as that, but it's just out of balance a little bit. But I'll have to look more into it on what needs to be done, on how to balance it. But typically, I think it has something to do with these screws right here. I'm not sure. I've never messed with these throttle bodies before, so this is a whole new world for me. But let's go ahead and hook them up and see what this TPS is reading. I'll have to remember, I think it was 0.2 to 0.3 is the voltage reading for when it's closed. And I think it's like 7 point something when it's open. So I'll hook these up. I have to turn the bike on to get power to it. Always line these up. All right, so we got 3 on bottom, three on bottom, 2 there, and line these guys up. This attachment is really interesting attachment. It's like a screw attachment. Once you get the plug in, it screws in, tightens, and then locks in place, so you can't pull it off. I've only seen that once or twice. I don't know if it's like an old style attachment, but it's a pretty cool attachment. It's a lot better than these plastic clips, and I don't know, it's just good to see that. But on top of that is when he told me that this was having issues with an intake backfire. I was like, okay, that has to do something with this possibly. So when I was finagling with this TPS sensor to try and take off the covering boot, it's actually, I just put the covering boot back on. I gotta take that off again. It's this covering boot right here, just a piece of rubber that covers up the wires. As I was trying to take this boot off, the plug came undone. I was like, oh, that's not supposed to do that. But yeah, I needed to take this boot off to see the wires. You can kind of see the wires there. But I had to take that boot off to get to these wires, and the plug came undone. I was like, oh shit. Maybe the backfire was just that simple, is this plug wasn't on there right. And sure enough, once I unplugged it, it's this little metal joint. You unplug it, there's this metal clip here, and you can kind of see it goes across here, has these little divots, or these bends, and one of these was bent a little bit, and it looked like it wasn't fully engaging, so I ripped this out and bent it in and put it back in, and the plug actually looked a little dusty, so cleaned it out, bent that pin back, and now when I plug it in, it gives a firm, good snap. And when I yank on it, it doesn't come out. So I'm hoping it's just that. But yeah, let's go ahead and start this up. So what we're doing is putting negative on ground. This fairing Zeus attachment is good enough for ground. And I'm going to be putting it in the middle wire. I think this is the power wire to it. I'm not sure if this good with electronics. All I know is it's the middle wire that will give you the correct signal. So let's see. Good. Okay. Now we'll turn on the bike. Let's see what this reads. Hey, that's good news. So I actually messed with this the other night and I adjusted the screw, but I was curious if it was going to change. But the absolute best setting is if the butterfly valves are completely closed, meaning you pop them a couple times. It's supposed to be 0.25, the perfect one. So when you snap it, it's 0.26, so that's good. So that means they're in spec. And then, yeah, I knew it was something 7, but it's supposed to be at 4.7. I'm sorry, the ground moved. 4.7 when wide open. So technically, these are now perfectly set. And all I did is set these down because you can kind of see this is the stop screw. This is what stops the butterfly valves and the throttle bodies from closing. So if I screw this in further, it kind of opens these valves a little bit more and a little bit more. You can even see the voltage changing as I open it. But it had been, where it was adjusted, it was reading, I think it was reading 0.4 something. So I think it was like 0.41. Yeah, it was pretty far open. And now that I'm looking at these, but they're dirty. And I can feel it sticking. So they've got quite a bit of buildup on them that I'm gonna have to get some carb cleaner and some brushes in there to clean these out because they're sticking a little bit. You can kind of hear it. It's supposed to be just a smooth action, so that's also something I'll have to do. I don't have any carb cleaner on me, but it's good that it's close. And then the opening value is actually pretty close to spot on. It's a little bit over, but that's okay. But, so that checks out too. So the next step is going to be getting these on the bike. Now that we have the new throttle body boot that doesn't have a hole in it, it's going to be starting the bike up and seeing if now that plug is plugged all the way in, now that I double check the valve clearances, I know those are in spec, and then adjusting the TPS, I will then put on a balancer reader to make sure that both these throttle bodies are balanced, because that's my last guess. I'm following down the road of what could be wrong. This is the last part that I could think of what's wrong, is that they're out of balance. And I've seen a couple YouTube videos of people showing their monster Ducatis actually filming it intake backfiring, and they're like, oh, it was just the TPS, or oh, it was just the throttle position sensor wire was fried, so I had to rewire it and put a new wire in. So I was like, all right, everything that's been described by this issue talks about this, and whether it's been adjusted or it's moved. But yeah, this hasn't moved at all either, because when you want to fully truly adjust the TPS, you have to undo these nuts and twist it a little bit. So we'll have to see. I don't think I actually have to do that. I think these are set fine. I think this stop screw is just a little bit out. So we'll try that, but again, it's kind of trial and error, and I'm not a Ducati master tech. This is all reading forums and watching YouTube videos. But I'm glad about that. I'm glad about the valves being in spec. They're perfectly in spec, just like, what is it, the LT Snyder manual reads. There's the 2 manuals for these bikes, which is new for me. Normally it's just you have the user manual and owner manual, and that's what you get. You follow those stats. But these bikes have such a cult following that there has been race teams with them for so long that they've identified things that are way better than the OEM settings. And the main manual that you go by is the Haynes manual, and that's kind of like the OEM manual that you follow. But there's another manual that is kind of more on that cult following with guys that did race teams that have really worked on these engines, rebuilt them after seasons of racing, and they've identified things, and that's through the LT Snyder manual. And apparently that's the holy grail of what to do with these bikes. I haven't bought that manual, but I think I'm going to have to buy it since I'm going to rebuild that bike. That bike needs a lot of work compared to this bike. This bike just needs some servicing. But that bike, I'm going to have to get into some things. I might even have to do an engine teardown because I haven't even done a compression test. I haven't taken an endoscope to see if there's rust on everything on the inside, but yeah, that was something that's new about these bikes is there's not just follow the manual, it's, oh, which manual do you want to follow? Do you want to follow the LT Snyder or do you want to follow the Haynes one? Well, which one do I follow? So, yeah, that's something new that's been with these guys. But it's cool though, it's something new again. I didn't know a bike could have such a cult following that someone that uses that bike so regularly on the racetrack or has so much experience with it identifies spots where it's like, no, OEM settings are wrong. You need to set them like this. So that's kind of cool. But let's go ahead and get this guy back on so I can just feel at ease and not have everything everywhere. Let's uncover this guy. Duct tape a little bit sticky. It's alright. Good in there. Okay. Alright. So how did I do this? So I've got to unhook this guy. Can't really put him in the way I have it. Twist lock. Alright. So short side is this side. Long side is this way. Alright. Let's see. I have this throttle hose coming through here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but you guys can see what I'm doing. I forgot about this guy. I won't forget this guy. Raise you up a little bit more. Kind of see what I'm doing here. There we go. Nothing too exciting. We're just installing throttle bodies back in the bike. Make sure everything's put back together somewhat. Let's see. Let's get this long hose back in. I've actually already done some upgrades to this bike. You'll see in the future videos of this that we've actually upgraded all the hoses, all the fuel connectors, because the OEM fuel connectors were all plastic, and it's like, oh my god. There's like horror stories on the forums of those plastic fittings cracking and leaking fuel, and then people having their bikes just light on fire and they can't do anything about it, and so they have to watch their beautiful bike burn to the ground. So don't really want that before we go on. Let's put the boot, wiring the boot back on. Make sure this doesn't just pull off. Yeah, that thing's on there, so fingers crossed that was the issue. Make sure there's no wires. Here. Right. That fuel line. Space. Alright, now the fun part. Let's move to the other side for this. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. Even with the worm clamps loosened, sometimes it just doesn't want to go in. That side's good. There's that one. Wiggle. A little bit of push. I don't push on anything important. Wiggle, wiggle. There it goes. You are all the way in. You are look at those corner screws. What was that? I think that was a 7, but I'll just do a flathead. Those. My trusty old flathead go. Did a flathead to get them started. And I'll switch to whatever it is, the 7mm. Finish them off. I'm not a big fan of hose clamps because I never really can tell when too tight is too tight or not tight enough. It's just kind of based on feel again. And that is definitely, doesn't make me excited whenever it's like, oh, but if they're not tight enough, that's the whole reason why this thing's leaking. It's like, pretty sure I got them tight enough. There we go. It's easy on there. That feels okay. It's kind of starting to slip in my hand. And we'll see. Those are lined up. That's good. That's good. Let me get the other one. And this one's kind of hard to get. I have to hold the one clamp on one side, tighten it from the other side. Need to get my long Phillips. Forgot these weren't just flatheads, they're actually Phillips, which is nice. Where are you? Oh yeah, if you happen to know any tool manufacturers that want to sponsor the channel and give me all new tools, show them my channel, because I'm using tools from an old Husky, what is it, Home Depot? Yeah, most of my tools came from this old Husky Home Depot toolkit, and I've just been slowly adding Harbor Freight tools as I go. And nothing against Harbor Freight, it has helped me get the job done, but I've already started to break several tools, whether it's rounding off Phillips heads or snapping small 1/4-inch ratchets or blunting off different sockets, spinning them off, and it's like, can I please just, or should I just invest in really high-grade tools? But I don't know. If you watch Project Farm, that guy who tests everything from WD-40 all the way up to vacuum cleaners, but it's mostly tools and stuff, you kind of get a grasp of like, not one tool company does everything the best. Like, everyone knows that, oh, Snap-on's the best, but after all this testing, it really shows that Snap-on's either middle of the road to not the best. It's surprising that DeWalt does a lot of good stuff. Like, their power tools are good, but also their hand tools. They've done a good job with them. But that's also the reservation about buying tools. So I'm like, I don't want to just spend a crap ton of money on something that's just going to be subpar. Let's see. That feels tight. My hand's slipping. I can't really get much more clear on it. So that's on there. Need to get the fuel lines back where they need to be. Kind of an interesting setup. They kind of bend in a special way to go up underneath the tank along with these connectors, and this is what holds them in place. And I can't remember, it was like this, like that. Yeah, I think it was this way. And it's kind of sketchy. I don't know if you can see this. This is the guide that holds them in place, and it's got a really freaking sharp edge to it. I'm like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's have something that holds the fuel line with a really sharp edge on it. So I've tried to get after it with the Dremel and whatever, but every time I Dremel it over, it just makes it a little bit flakier and sharper. So I'm like, what am I doing? So I just kind of bend it out a little bit, and then once I get the hose on there, bend it closed. But it's just like, that is a misstep. Let's see. This marker, this is marker to show which one's right, which one's left.
right and left. I think it was a marker from, I forgot what it was. I forgot what, it's just to showcase which one's which, but I forgot what the actual marking was. This way, or was it this way? I don't remember which way it goes. I'll just add this on, pretty sure, I'll have to do this tomorrow. I can't remember which way this goes. It's either this way or this way. I don't think it's this way. I think it's this way. Pretty sure it's that way. I can't remember. I don't think it really matters, but I think it's that way. I'll set them this way just for now. I have to readjust them. I will. Again, I have to pull this guy up just slightly. Ouch. See? Just freaking cut myself. Alright, let's squeeze this on here. Push that, hold it down. Oh, man. Makes me nervous. Push this down. There we go. Get up onto there. And then a little clamping force. So I'm gonna get that clamp just a little bit tighter. Scare me. Make me think I'm clamping onto the hose. Oh, there we go. Just a tiny bit. Just close it up just a little bit. There we go. Now I got a little screw here with a little standoff. A little spacer. This is something I don't really want to drop. I am not going to drop this. I'm just going to take this out. Make me sweat. Alright. Should go like so. Like so. Yeah. That spacer. Excuse me. Let's go up here. And that just screws in. I'm gonna give that a dollop of thread locker real quick. Luckily I could find my thread locker. I can't find my nice Permatex bottle, but I do have a bottle of some thread locker. Which, if you've seen any of my other videos, I thread lock everything. Just my experience at racetracks and seeing what vibration can really do and how quickly things can come undone, even if you have them at the correct. Oh, yeah, that came out real thin. All right. Well, that's enough thread locker. But how quickly things can come undone just from one round or one session out on the track, and you're tightening bolts again. And I mean, it's on inline fours that are smooth running engines, but you're still having to tighten bolts. And it's like, I just put some thread locker on this and I gave it, I don't know, 30 minutes or so. It should be holding just fine, but it came undone. So after seeing stuff like that, I am religious about adding thread locker to things. And you'll see a lot of comments in my other videos about me talking how, or you've seen comments in a lot of my other videos, people like, oh, this guy single-handedly is keeping thread locker in business or whatever, Loctite in business and stuff. But it's true, I really do not mess around with that stuff. I will definitely err on the side of caution always. Here's another one that's just... Oh, that's good. Bring this down just a little bit. There we go. That's good. That's good. Hopefully I didn't get too much thread locker everywhere. I think it just mainly went onto my hands. Yeah, that's the downside. Like sometimes when those thread lockers sit, they get so thin. But they still do a good job once you get them in a no air environment. They thicken up real quick. And yeah, that's about it for right now. Let's see. I want to double check the snugness on this guy. I had, you'll see in the upcoming videos and the upcoming build, I've already done the belts and the valve clearances, and I've marked them with yellow paint just to make sure if anything moved, I knew about it. But this one, I can't get a torque wrench in there, so this one I just definitely did it by feel on locking it in. But I saw a guy that, he had his, because you have to use, in order to do these belt tensioning, you have to use 2 ratchets. One to hold it in place, which is a 22, and it has to be an offset, and then another 12 to get in there to tighten it or loosen it. Well, I didn't know I could get a torque wrench on the front one because it has easy access, but you can't get any sort of socket in here. So I watched, I think it's Brad, the bike guy. You have your backup 22 to hold the, what it is, belt tensioning pulley, I guess that's what you call it. And then you have your 12 to tighten it. So you get your 12 on there. And then you take a 13 millimeter Allen and you put it in here and use a torque wrench on that. I was like, oh yeah. So I have to purchase a 13 millimeter Allen so I can do a torque on this. This is just by feel, felt good, and then these are nylock nuts. It's not nylock, but it's got metal tabs that do pretty much the same thing. They don't loosen. They do the same thing as nylock, but they're with metal tabs. I forgot what they're called. But this one shouldn't move because it's got that, but I just don't, I have that small what if scenario if that starts to move. Because if this starts to move and this belt loosens and it comes off, this one nut can cause this engine to explode. So it's not worth double checking and yeah, so I need to get one more socket or one more Allen to be able to torque that or double check my torque on this. But I've already done the belt tensioning tool. This came out to the correct hertz. That's another thing with these silly bikes is I've never heard of, oh, you're gonna check it by sound. Wait, what? There's not a measuring device. There's not like a hard tool. No, there is a hard tool, but that thing costs a lot, and it's very, very, I don't want to say like difficult to use, but it's very precise, but it's also a little bit persnickety to use. So it seems like everyone uses belt tension by sound, and I'm like, wow, that's something new that I've never had to deal with. So yeah, trying to get these to the right hertz, and you have to thunk it in the correct spot, and you have to thunk it over and over until you get a constant reading. And when I did this, man, my thumb and my index finger were so raw. I was like, holy crap, what am I doing here? But yeah, that was something new. But these bikes are so fun. They are beautiful to look at. They're tiny in comparison to like normal sport bikes or modern sport bikes. And all the weight is down low, which is crazy because even on, I was telling you about that CPR 600 I've had and all the other sport bikes, even the S1000, it all feels like all the weight is so up high. Even though the engine is pretty low, those things feel so top heavy now. But these bikes, even with the gas tank on, even with it completely full of gas, it feels so light, but you can feel that all the weight is down low because you can tip it just very easily. But if you tip it a little too much, you realize, wow, there's all the weight. Because on modern sport bikes, you tip it a little bit and you're like, oh, that's getting heavy. But this thing, you can wobble it back and forth because that V engine, a lot of the weight is down here. But yeah, well, small job tonight. I thought it was going to be a lot bigger job. I thought I was going to have to be popping off the belts, battery box, other belt cover, get the belts off, get everything off to change these clearances. Because I did a preliminary check and I was like, I don't know. I'll check it more thoroughly tomorrow. But now that I've gotten in there to get the correct measurements, those are dead on. And it makes me confident about all the other measurements that I've done that they are definitely dead on. But so now it just leaves me up to, was it that loose connector on the TPS sensor? Or is it just this secondary throttle body out of balance? And is that why it's causing it to backfire? So, but yeah, that's job well done. A little bit of work tonight. Give you a quick once over of it. These bikes are cool. I like these bikes. It's got the front fairing on it right now, but all the fairings are over there hanging out for right now. Gonna get some hooks set up. And then this bike, I've got all the parts I need for it, technically. I have all the parts I need for it in that bin, which is kind of nice. I have everything I need for it, but I did notice one thing that is gonna be something that I can't do. These wheels have been chromed, but they're flaking off terribly. The corrosion's coming through them really bad. And I used to actually work at a sandblasting company, and we always used to talk about how you can sandblast aluminum and you sandblast the chrome off, but in reality you can't really, because it actually damages and eats away at the underlying aluminum. So the only true process to get chrome off is to do the electrolysis in the reverse order. So you do the electrolysis with the solution to pull all the chrome off, and then you do another bath where it pulls all the, I think it's the nickel next. I don't know if it's copper or nickel, but the nickel off, and then another one to pull all the copper off. And then you do an acid etch bath to smooth everything else out, and then I think they sandblast it to make it clean again. And then they say, do you want it back like this, or do you want it powder coated where? So that's the only hiccup with this bike is one, those wheels. Oh yeah, and in the move, I can't freaking find the key. We moved and I was like, yeah, I got everything, whatever, everything's set up. And I cannot find the key for that bike. And it's got a silly keychain on it, so it should be easy to find, but I have no idea where it is. And this bike, that might be another exercise in something that I've never done before, which is how do you go to a locksmith and ask them to create a key for you. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think that's about it for tonight. Just small project. Thanks for tuning in. We'll probably do some more lives in the future when I have some more things to do on this. I do want to go live when I do the throttle body balancing, but that will be during the day, probably on a weekend or something. And you guys get to see me use that new DigiSync, which is a cool product. A lot of throttle body balancing kits have to do with fluid. This is all digital, so when I get to use that, that'll be nice. But yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you probably maybe this weekend, maybe next weekend. I don't know. I'm gonna get around to this thing, but yeah. You guys have a good night. See you guys later.